It's the beginning of October as this releases and the end of September as we record it. I'm Jerma.
And I'm PapaLlama. Good to see everybody again.
Uh, we
Yeah.
left off announcing the guilds, and now some weeks later the guilds have gotten started. We've gotten a few
Yeah.
added guilds. Any of them of note to you, PapaLlama?
I'm gonna be real. Not exactly. My life has been like hyper busy, which is the reason I didn't even push to run one. I just wanted
Mm-hmm.
to be in one, so I joined yours because it was the one most closely aligned with me being able to my hobby of barbecuing. So
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done a good job of keeping up with the guilds. I think there's only been a couple that have come out. I'll say this, they're all way more scholarly than I care to be. I think the meme guys and the Wapple Warriors are the only ones that are not fancy schmancy, and I'm not sure what the Wapple Warriors are supposed to do.
I mean, their thing is what, one, two, three, four, 5 words for friends, fruits, and camaraderie. And to be honest, it's not even fruit, it's just fruit. One fruit, the waffle.
The fruit with the face. I mean, I feel like I should like care more because we are called Wapplewood. I mean, Wapple is inherently tied to the server somehow. I still don't know exactly how, but it is.
I mean,
I
I don't
joined
know either.
just late enough to not know.
We also have Snex Gold Guild, uh, Horatio Ecclesiastes, which is about prayer, which actually I think is kind of like a fun version of Panther's Guild. And then we have the Personality Type Guild and the Wapple Guild, and that's everything that's been added since we did the last episode. So,
A personality type guild?
hmm
What is this? Is this astrology
they
but
have
for
a fancy
Catholics?
word for it, psionics, I think it's said.
I don't actually see the Psionics Guild. Oh, there it is. You're right. A Catholic perspective on personality aiming to help you grow closer to Christ. Yeah, that's yeah, okay. It could be about using your strengths and overcoming your weaknesses. Sure.
Mm.
What's
Yeah,
really interesting about the guild system is just exactly how ignorant we all are to what the other guilds are doing.
yeah.
Like,
So far, all I know that's happened is the memers have declared war on the Wobblers. What that means, I don't really know.
that actually makes sense. So,
I mean, I suppose it makes some sense. They do seem opposed. But what's the war gonna look like? I mean, you can't exactly roll tanks across the Danube here.
roll wapples everywhere and memes. I don't think it's supposed to have like a rational path forward. It's just memers and wapplers doing their thing.
Mm.
I've heard rumor that Jeremy's guild is very busy.
Oh man, they're busy and big now. They actually managed
I
to
know.
eclipse Wapplewood. I mean, Wapplewood, what am I saying? They managed to clip our board 3 day. I mean, granted, we haven't been doing recruitment, but Jeremy came into this with a solid plan, and he's executing it.
He
That's
did
actually
have
something I noticed. Not
head
sure if
skills.
it's not sure if it's
So it
because of
says the
Jeremy.
revival of scholasticism. What is scholasticism even? This is going to show my.
He gave an explanation of it a last episode, which we've both forgotten, so we're gonna move on.
Yeah,
The
it was already way above my head, my pay grade.
the yeah, no, he'd come into this with like a proper plan and everything. I mean, I don't know if it's because of him or just generally, but last Sunday I did reading of I did the story time reading I do, and I read John 10 to 15, and like 15 people turned out, and normally it's like 5, and I'm like, huh, that's weird.
People are all into it between that and isn't there a guild for reading
Hmm.
and stuff like that?
They're the Plum Guild, that's their shorthand. I don't remember their long name, but they're about reading and stuff.
Oh,
Washington
that's right.
runs them.
Plume Milites. Washington runs it. That's intriguing. Yes, I don't do enough reading as is. But yeah, our guild has been fun. We just share pictures of the outdoors, I suppose. It's and talk about things like my what was it, jack-o'-lantern mushrooms that I've got growing right where my cat poops in the yard. That's hilarious. I want to know where my cat's going to poop now. Like, did it relocate? You know, he got a new bathroom area.
Hmm.
I hope those things glow in the dark like the internet says they do. I want to go out there one night with little llama and like peek around and see if they're glowing on because supposedly the underside of them can glow in dim light. And I live in the middle of nowhere, so like there should be no ambient light to bother them.
That's very peculiar. That's one of the things. I don't like mushrooms. I don't like them at all. I don't like mushrooms. I don't like mold. I don't like any of these weird little spore things. I believe in plants and I believe in animals. And the mushrooms, they're neither, and it freaks me out.
I believe there's a classification they're called fungi.
Yeah, they're weird. I don't like them.
They are weird. That was like the first person to respond in our guild was like, "Don't eat that." I was like, "What?" I was like, "What? What?" I was like, "I don't eat like I do not eat wild mushrooms, and the reason is strictly because it's one of the few things that could like just straight up kill you, and I don't know enough about mushrooms, especially wild mushrooms, to eat them safely. To like go out there and be like, "Oh, this mushroom's totally safe to eat." No, not doing that.
The One of the things that I found really funny was oh man, a friend of mine is super into foraging. And it's like, wow, that sounds fun, but I'm not sure that I trust my eyesight and just reading from a book to make sure I'm not getting this wrong skilled enough to trust foraging.
I'm with you. That's
I mean, like
the who are the
a squirrel, you know what a squirrel is.
yeah, a deer, yeah. But with fungi, it's very dangerous. You can like, what am I eating? And you know, it's the modern year. It's like 2024. You can just go to the grocery store or your local farmers market, and somebody whose entire job it is to sort through these things will have food available to you at a reasonable price.
It's, well, reasonable price depends on your area, but yeah, this is the sort of thing where, man, it sure rocks to be in a society, yeah. If
We truly
think
do live
about
in a society.
think about trying to put this together. Oh boy, just getting our hands on mushrooms in the middle of nowhere. How are we supposed to make our pizza now?
Well, what would happen is there'd be about like 10 generations before us, and a lot of people, more few people would have eaten the wrong mushrooms and died, and like the people who were around he or she when they died would go inform the other people not to eat that mushroom in the and that knowledge would carry over. It would
You
be
know,
a lot more it would be a lot more dangerous.
that makes me wonder, is that how they actually discovered that stuff? That seems like a
You
really blunt way of figuring that stuff out,
You
you know?
have to like I'm no historian, but you have to imagine that's how they figured all the original stuff out. And maybe they put together some patterns, right?
I
Maybe they're
mean,
like, well, if it's shaped like this, it's not so bad. I mean, for instance, like we all know, what is it? Red and black, friendly Jack, red and yellow, deadly fellow. Like we all know that kind of pattern recognition, but it's a little bit more difficult to pick out different things apart, especially in the fungi world, because they can look the same, but they can be vastly different.
yeah. I mean, well, with the red and black, I mean, we are biologically good at spotting snakes. Like humans, they've done studies on this and they're like, wow, we can spot snakes really well. But
Hmm.
then when it comes to stuff like not eating lead or mercury, it took a while for us to figure out, maybe drinking a pint of mercury isn't good for us. So I don't
That's
know how, like most poisonous mushrooms, I don't think like drop dead kill you. It's more like they make you feel really sick.
They do make you really volatile. I know some of them can, but yeah, they just make
Hmm.
you sick typically.
Yeah.
But still, you have to figure that out. Same goes for like berries and things. I really think they probably somebody probably like ate it and then died. If I had to guess.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody knows the answers to these questions and they're listening to this, feel free to come on the next podcast and tell us about
Mm-hmm.
how people figured
Yeah,
out how to not
definitely.
eat things that killed them or made them violently ill.
The That's actually something. Have you seen the new trend of mushroom farming? Like domestic
Um,
mushroom farming?
I've heard of this. I've seen people on like the internet, but I've never seen it in real life.
It's the sort of thing where I've actually seen a very small scale mushroom farm, and it's like a big plastic bag, like the size
Oh
of
yeah, yeah.
a leaf bag. And then you look inside, it's just like a big piece of mushroom, and they're like, wow, all that's mushroom? I'm like, yeah, all mushroom. I don't know,
That makes
something
sense.
about it just off to me. I don't know.
Well, you have to be really, really careful with that kind of stuff when you do fungi like that. Like it has to be very almost sterile because you can really poison, even if it's like a healthy, like a mushroom that's safer, you can really ruin it for yourself if you don't keep it, what do you call it, clean.
Hmm.
So it is interesting, isn't it? So
Oh,
I'm with you though. That's like I'm just not gonna risk it for the biscuit. This is modern technology. This is the future, and the only thing that makes sense to me when people say they go foraging is like truffles, like because A, they're recognizable, and B, they're really expensive.
oh, I don't even think you can get truffles from the woods in my neck of the area. Actually, you mentioned it. I recently bought one of those big Costco things full of honey because I'm getting into overnight oats, and wow, they're wonderful. But
Oh
now I
yeah.
have like a liter and a half of honey, and I had the
Oh yeah.
idea. Oh, I saw some people online they're making mead with their honey, and somebody actually posted in the speakeasy thread about this a few days ago. Did you see that?
No, I don't actually go into the speakeasy thread.
Yeah. A fellow by the name of Kurt posted that he had finished his 5-gallon batch of mead, and then posted all
Interesting.
beautiful little pieces of little top cap bottles of mead.
That's actually kind of cool. You could try
Mhm.
making mead. I mean, what do you do? Just ferment it? Ferment honey? Is that like generally speaking what you do?
From what I've heard, yeah. The
Huh.
You can mix all sorts of stuff in, but you just need a whole bunch of honey and a bit of water, and well, a whole bunch of water, and mix it together and ferment it. I mean, anything with sugar and yeast will ferment.
Yeah, true, true. It almost makes too much sense. The original beer is gonna have been mead. That would make too much sense.
Mhm.
Humans figured out how to ferment things because it literally made things edible or drinkable.
The That's one of the things. Have you heard of the Mongolian fermented horse wine?
Mongolian fermented horse wine. Does that like tell me that they're just fermenting wine on the side, like in bags on the sides of horses, and this isn't something worse?
Let me. It's called kumis. It is a fermented dairy product made from mare milk.
That sounds risky. It's like raw milk that's fermented. That does sound really risky.
The it's it's the sort of thing where apparently I've heard some of it when made in a specific way will turn black.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'd expect from the Mongols, though. They'd be like, yeah, we have fermented alcoholic horse milk wine. You'd be like, of course you
It,
do. Of
I
course you
mean,
do.
when I say wine, I mean I've heard it's closer to like champagne. It's sparkling and light.
How could it become sparkling? How'd they take
Fermentation.
it? Does fermentation actually make it,
I mean
what do you call
that's
it? Like
how beer
carbonated?
get. Yeah, that's how beer gets carbonated.
Huh. I never even considered that beer was carbonated. It
This is
doesn't taste
actually
carbonated.
you can make sodas naturally with a bit of fermentation.
Today I'm learning all sorts of new things.
Yeah, I mean it'd make you wonder when did we invent a soda pop?
I mean, it wasn't just Coca-Cola shoving it, shoving isn't it nitrous into the water? What is it? It's like
No,
nitrous
it's
oxide.
carbon. It's carbon
Carbon,
dioxide.
my bad. Yeah, carbon.
The
Carbon dioxide. Yeah.
You can actually make a very the only way I can describe it is a small bubbled soda using dry ice in water, and it'll carbonate the water, and the bubbles will be very small and delicate. And it's the sort of thing
Interesting.
where when I say that, I mean like the carbon just straight up dissolved there.
Huh.
I think there's something good to be said about letting kids have a little bit of fun, and I think the more dangerous the fun, the more there is to be gained from it. Does that make
Well,
any sense?
no, it's accurate. There's actually a bunch of studies out there on letting kids play alone, even if like because parents nowadays will view that as dangerous. Like, no, kids need to learn to not do certain things the hard way, right? They need to be feel free to experiment. And those same studies have shown that even if you don't interfere, if the parent is watching, then the kids won't take certain risks because they know that their parents would frown upon it.
It's the sort of thing where I've actually seen, like, the little TikTok trend, yeah? Where the a parent would be holding a baby, knock their their like lap against the wall, and then start rubbing their baby's head and pretending the baby was hurt, and the baby would start crying.
Yes.
And
Yep.
part of me makes me wonder how much of this stuff, the child pain response, is performative.
Oh man, it probably is. The answer is a lot. What was it? Little Llama did something today, and so he got a whooping, and he was sitting there crying straight at Mrs. Llama, and I'm just in a different room at this point, and Mrs. Llama's doing stuff, and eventually he like just straight up like after a minute of this, he just gets straight up distracted and
You,
grabs whatever the other item is, and we're just done. No more crying.
I saw a hilarious little video of a child just like getting nice and comfortable on the ground before they threw a tantrum. You could just see like the child like just lying down, making sure that it was nice and soft, and then just was like lay down and was like, okay, great, I'm in position, and then just started wailing, just like
Yeah.
whining.
Dude, it's so accurate. A lot of it is performative. Like you set expectations for the child, and they will either rise to or fall to those expectations. They're extremely impressionable.
Yeah, there's a story I heard about a fellow who would have fun with his friend when he was young, and they grew up in the middle of nowhere. So the family's property was like a mile or so. No, more than a mile. Like the part they were playing in was a mile across, but they would play. The property was larger than that. And so what they would do is there were two tree lines like a mile apart. And so they would go to each tree line opposite each other with their little 22 long rifles, and they just start shooting at each other.
With 22's genius.
And they were just having fun shooting at each other. And because it's a mile, and it's a 22 long rifle, and it's kids, nothing happened. They are pop, ping, zang, just a bunch of stuff. And then, one day, one of them hit each other, and it left a nasty wound in the leg, and they realized, wait a minute, this stuff is still lethal at this range, we shouldn't be doing this. That's one of the things. When I got
They
my
were like, well,
firearm, when I got my firearm license, one of the things they were very, very fixed on drilling all of us on was how far is a 22 lethal from? And the answer is 1.6 miles.
I was just going to assume that it was infinite. I mean, that's not the
Well,
proper answer, but the answer is far enough.
the answer basically is just like, hey, this is how far away it's lethal from. You're not going to be hitting anything there, but it's going to still be killing people. So you got to be careful. And that's one of the, there was like a question on the test and everything. And it was a very,
What kind of you were getting firearm training? Do you have to go through firearm training in Canada?
oh yeah, there's basically three sets of firearm permits. There's non-restricted, there's restricted, and then there's prohibited. You can't really get prohibited anymore. I mean, you can if you do certain things, but you can't really. Restricted is basically pistols, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns. Non-restricted is everything else.
Okay.
And you got to get training. You got to get a day of training for non-restricted, a day of training for restricted. You have two different licenses for those, and then prohibited we don't talk about because nobody gets those anymore.
That's interesting. That's actually a better. So that's like a pretty good solution to training down here in the South U.S. Um, down in the South, we anybody can carry a gun. You own a gun, you carry that gun. It's free. You can even carry it concealed. No training needed.
Yeah, that's one of the things.
Just what your pappy taught you.
Yeah, the one of the things up here is that Canada Canada is nothing like America in this regard. I mean, legally, and I'm saying legally,
Legally,
one
legally.
could theoretically walk down the streets of any major city in Canada with a firearm clearly displayed, just slung across their back.
In
That's legal.
Minecraft.
It's legal. Very, very stupid. The police are going to arrest you, and they're probably going to charge you with something, but that's not because the firearm is because you're causing panic. But it's
Hmm.
legal. And that's one of the things where it's just, it's a different country. But because Canada's Canada and America's America, everyone thinks, oh, they're similar. Like, here's another thing Canadians, even Canadians don't know this. Canada doesn't have felonies.
Ah, interesting. Well, you guys.
There's none of this felony misdemeanor system. It's crown prosecution and it's something else, but I don't actually remember. But I know it's not felony.
Y'all don't differentiate between the different types of or different like severities of crime in that way.
I mean, there's crimes against the person versus crimes against property.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, we
not,
have that kind of thing too. So
yeah, but it's not, there's no felony misdemeanor draw line, you know?
I'm not even sure I know what a felony versus a misdemeanor technically means, other than it's just not as severe as the other.
Yeah, I mean, the felonies, I think, is just like the term for like the big no-nos. If you do a felony, oh boy, no voting, no guns, no. What else don't felons get? No other stuff,
Uh,
no fun, basically. Felons
usually,
don't get
usually
fun,
no
I'll say
leaving the
that.
state.
Ooh, can felons leave the state? I'm not sure about that, actually. I haven't ever thought about that.
It probably depends a lot on parole. I have no clue. I'm probably talking on my butt here.
Yeah, I mean, man, well, what a thing, what a thing. But yeah, it's different. That's one of the very big things. One of the really big things that Americans find real weird is Canadians, by and large, are not allowed to carry pistols.
Yeah, I remember you said that, and it was in
Mhm.
restricted.
Yeah, it's in restricted. Some people, if they do it for work or they have protection of life, which means that the RCMP said, hey, we can't protect you. Here's a gun, figure it out. Those people can, but like, there's
Hmm.
none of them. I mean, there's a ton of them, but like, protection of life, I think, is below 6 people nationally. And everyone else, if you're out in the wilderness, you got to carry a full length rifle, or what's really popular is short barreled shotguns.
Short barrel shotguns are popular here too for self defense.
However, short barreled shotguns are legally SBRs, which no SBSs, which means that they fall under ATF tomfoolery. Up here, it's just like as long as it's over 26 inches overall, it's fine.
Oh, well, I say even short barrel. I guess the difference here is that whoever's making them will literally make them like the perfect length to be to not be or to be ATF compliant.
Mhm. Which is, I think, 16-inch barrel. But
Yeah.
when I say 26 overall, that includes the stock.
Okay. Okay.
So one of
Yeah,
the popular.
I don't know enough about the ATF laws because I just never really do anything that gets close to them.
I mean,
Like anything. Yeah.
that's how most people live their lives. I mean, I don't think you know much about the man. I can't think of any other bureaus right now. Oh, you don't know much about what the laws around Homeland Security are, I bet, because you don't do that stuff. Actually, do you do that stuff? No, I don't think Homeland Security messes with your line of work.
Nah. Well, the answer is no. They don't mess with my line of work. But my line of work, there are people in my line of work that have to deal with it. My brother was a network engineer for the Air Force for a long time, so he probably had to deal with some of that. If I have to imagine at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But like, no, I deal with more. If I deal with anything, I deal with compliance and regulation. So
Yeah,
financial systems and HIPAA, health
is it?
I forget what HIPAA stands for, but basically nursing, anything that's like doctor or patient related falls under HIPAA.
Yeah. Wait, do you ever have to deal with the FCC?
No, I never have to deal with the FCC.
Interesting. Who regulates that stuff then? Because, like, from what I remember, who regulates your line of work other than the people you're working with?
It's funny you bring that up. We're all waiting for that regulation to come down. If you get in like some of the like IT service provider MSP community, servers, whether they're on Discord or elsewhere, you'll find a lot of people. We're all waiting for for this line of work to get regulated because it's almost impressive how little people know about the our line of work. Like they know like this guy works on the servers and that guy does networking. But what they don't realize is that like most IT guys, most like where I'm at, most net and system administrators could theoretically end a company in an evening. Like they could do irreparable damage. Like almost all of us could.
I mean, you're,
It is just not known, and there's no regulation over it. I've always contended that anybody who gets to my position at some point in their life or their career should have been forced to take an ethics course of some sort, because
man.
it's almost scary the belligerent amounts of power people are given.
That's one of the things where I've actually noticed they're starting to do that with. I know they're doing that with engineering. I think they're starting to do it with comp sci too. In university, they force you to take ethics because other
Yeah,
you get like you get you hear about the projects that are getting started, and it's like, hey, we built the awful device from the hit novel. Don't build the awful device.
yeah, yeah. We
Yeah,
get thinking back on the regulatory stuff you're talking about, we have like security frameworks, NIST being a popular one, and that would be where they try to define what is and isn't. It's almost like the regulation you're asking about, but they define what is and isn't acceptable for or how to segment off privilege, right? They call it least access privilege for some people, but how they segment off privileges so not one person can destroy, an organization.
the I mean, I think one of the reasons why the internet's like still somewhat unregulated in this regard is because everyone who built the internet is still alive. Like all the
Yeah,
early internet engineers haven't died yet. Once they start dying, things will change.
maybe. Yeah, I could see that.
The
I didn't know they were all still alive. It
I
feels
mean,
like a
I
lifetime
say
ago
all
because it all
still
started
alive.
like the
I mean,
year I was born.
but like the internet property started in the 80s, if I recall.
Yeah, it
And
was the first like known like internet. It was like 1989, which was like the year I was born.
mhm. And that's not that long ago. That's like 30 years ago. I mean,
35, but yeah,
don't
feels like a long time. Okay.
the man. Something though I've noticed is that there's a lot of regulations on like nothing on cybersecurity stuff. There's a ton of regulations on drones when it comes to this stuff. So
On
have you ever
drones,
drones? Yeah.
that's because it interferes with airspace.
Well,
There's a ton of regulation on like if you own a plane, you are not allowed to just like get in the plane and fly around. Like that is
yeah.
very not okay. There's a ton and ton of regulation on airspace, and so that's why the drones they have the ability to go in places like they shouldn't go or places that are not safe for them to be. Right, so
Yeah.
that's why there's so much on drones.
But
It's like already in this physical space that's existed for a long time, whereas the idea of the internet or websites is like brand new.
but the thing is, right now, the big drone regulations that are coming up and coming through, they've got nothing to do with where the drones are going. They've got to do with who's making them and how. Have you ever heard
They
of the
do have.
Blues?
They already have. The thing is, they already have regulation on where drones can and can't go. By the way, that already
Yeah, of course,
exists.
I'm well aware, but
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now, the big discussion around drones is manufacturing. They're trying to ban DJI from America,
Oh,
and there's also the Blue Skies program, which is basically for a drone to do any work for the government, it has to be made in America using these compliant systems so that it is certified safe and
well,
that
that's
it's
just because
not
they're being smart. You
yeah, and
shouldn't. You shouldn't be using parts or any. You like your drone shouldn't have parts from China installed on it. That would just be asking for
yeah,
it.
But we have basically none of this for electronics, like the entire Huawei thing with the African Congress. A bunch of people said,
Oh,
"Oh, we're going to stop using Huawei." Sure. Where's the rest of your computer from, though?
yeah, yeah. But so they have that for specific types of organizations. Like a number of years back, they found out that the Chinese were intercepting Cisco switches in part of their transit route, and
Hmm.
they were installing chips on them and stuff to track. And so now, with the like, if you're the United States government, Cisco has agreed to produce everything that's for the U.S. government here in the U.S. Right, for those switches. And so like they end up doing it. They may not regulate it on a regulatory level, but they sure are doing it on an organizational level.
Yeah. The one of the things about that,
We did that for the first time recently, right? We banned Kaspersky, which was hilarious.
you banned what?
So I think it was Kaspersky is an antivirus and
Oh,
cybersecurity program.
that. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
and you had to
crazy.
have
Yeah.
heard about that. On the way out, it installed some like cheapy little freebie AV on everybody's computer. It was like, "Thanks for confirming our suspicions on the way out the door." That was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. The that. Oh man, Norton, McAfee, all these antivirus software, just like I I luckily never installed one, so I got to skip the ludicrous level of just how incredibly invasive they are, and I'm like, I got to
The
skip all
problem
that
is
because
you
I just
can't.
never installed one.
The problem is at the business level, you're not even allowed to skip it anymore. Like if you don't have an EDR or XDR endpoint security solution, you won't be able to get like cyber liability insurance.
Oh, that's
And if you
interesting.
get
Right, I've
sued, you'll
never thought of
basically
that.
lose. So
I've never
like you
thought
you
about.
have to do that.
Yeah, yeah. The
Welcome to my world. These are the nerdy things I have to deal with. It's
yeah.
not just like, oh, Llama does the bloop bloop bloop. He also has to be like, oh, well,
Mhm.
are you compliant with your cyber liability?
So, the next episode is going to be either the Halloween episode or the one right before Halloween, depending on how our schedules work out.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone had a very spooky October,
Yes,
and I've been
yes.
Jerma.
PapaLlama.